meeting? Did we advertise it for 5?
You're live. Yeah, I switched it to that.
Okay.
You're good to.
All right. I'd like to call the Architectural Review Board meeting to order for Wednesday, February 19th, 2025. Can we do a roll call?
All right, Lorson,
Here.
Capocella,
Here.
Chuck Mason,
Here.
Joanna Mason, Barbin.
Here.
Okay,
All right. At this time, or let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. And then at this time, we will recess for a site visit to the Lane Motors property at 14920 Washington Street.
Okay, coming back from the site visit. At this time, because Mr. Snyder is no longer on the ARB, we need to appoint a new chairman and vice chairman. Do I have a nomination for chairman?
Yes, so I'd like to nominate, you know what, I didn't even get your last name. So, I'd like to nominate, actually, Ken Lewison for chair. Do we just do this one at a time?
Okay. Is there a second?
I second the nomination.
No, they were good. Mhm.
The meeting was started at
Ah.
5. So we just went into recess. We're coming out of recess.
Okay,
Okay,
David second.
all right.
Any other nominations?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate, you have to give me one more
Oh,
time.
hold on, that's just for chair. Any other nominations for chair?
Oh, okay, copy, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, if there's no other nominations, do I have a motion to appoint Ken Larson as chair?
I'd like to motion to appoint Ken Lawson as chair.
And second?
I second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Mason,
Aye.
Capicella,
Aye.
and
That's good.
other Mason is out. Barbin, Lorson.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, okay.
Well,
All right. Now, do I have a nomination for vice chair?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Mr. Capicelic, what's your first name?
David.
David Capicelic for vice chair.
Okay, David Capicella is vice chair. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any other nominations for vice chair?
No other nominations.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to appoint David Capicella as vice chair?
I'd like to motion to appoint David Capicello as vice chair.
I'll second.
All right. Then Ken Lorson, you can take over.
Okay. Now we got a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call.
Oh,
vote.
roll call vote. My bad. Yes, Mason,
Aye.
Lorson,
Aye.
Capicella.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, let me pull up, I'll go all the way down. We'll get to the agenda. Okay, I think we're at citizens' time, right? Okay, yeah. It's moving on to citizens' time. Anybody out there want to make any comments to the ARB outside of the COA applications? Okay, any emails?
No, there are no emails.
Okay, then we'll move on to minute approval. Anybody motion on that?
I make a motion to approve the minutes for,
December 18th.
yeah, December 18th, 2024.
I second.
Okay, got a motion and second, open for discussion. Anybody have any corrections they want to make or anything in the discussions? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any abstains, any nays? Okay. We'll move on to the agenda items. First one is ZP 2024-1201. 6800 Fayette Street.
Yes, good evening, Board. This is an application that was heard first in the December 18th, 2024 ARB meeting. The application was for a wooden privacy fence to be installed at a new single-family unit on the corner of Jefferson and Fayette Street. It's part of 2 units that are going to be there. This is the first application of the 2 for those single-family units. The board discussed with the applicant the privacy fence that was, the board-on-board privacy fence that was presented did not meet the guidelines for board-on-board fences. And so therefore, the applicant was asked to bring back an application with updated designs that meet the ordinance and the ARB guidelines. The applicant has done so. If you look on packet page 19, you'll see the presented fence type, which is 6-foot high, dog-ear privacy fence, but it's just pressure-treated wood, one layer. This is in conformance with the ARB guidelines and the zoning ordinance when it comes to height, as well as design and fence type. There was an alternate provided still with the board on board. My recommendation as planner is to approve the dog-ear fence, 6-foot high, as presented with the other gate and fence items presented. If there are no other comments for the board, by the board either, the draft motion for approval is on packet page 11.
Okay, is the applicant here?
Yes, if you have any other questions for the applicant.
Okay, does the applicant want to comment before?
We're willing to accept the dog-eared fence. Come up to the podium. Hi, I'm Bernadette Manera, and I represent both the owner and general contractor. And so we're happy to do the board-on-board 6-foot fence, which is in compliance with the architectural guidelines and is consistent with the house that's across the street at 6782 Jefferson. It's the same fence. So I'm happy to address any questions.
Okay, do I have any discussions, any comments? I saw there was an alternate on there. Is there an, do you prefer either or?
We're happy to do what the ARB recommends.
Mhm.
Our fence contractor recommended the alternate just because the board on the top helps stabilize the fence,
Mhm.
but we're happy to do what the ARB recommends.
Yeah, I mean, the alternate is definitely a more sturdy fence. I don't know your situation. I didn't really do any site survey on it to understand the vegetation or issues you might have about it evading onto the fence over time. So, yeah, I didn't know if anybody had any comments on the alternate fence as opposed to the other fence.
The one comment that was made in December was by Ben Barbin, who's not present tonight, but in reading through the guidelines, alternating board fences are not approved for new fences. So in this case, that's where my recommendation sways to just the dog-eared fence that was provided for the first option.
Okay, I think both are appropriate, so, just wanted to make sure what your preference was, so.
Well, our preference would be the alternate, but again, we're happy to do whatever the ARB recommends. On the December meeting, the chairperson then recommended the same fence that was across the street at 6782 Jefferson, which is the dog-eared.
Okay, makes sense. So, any other questions or concerns?
No, sir.
Okay, since there was a history and a recommendation earlier on, I'm good either way, like I said. So if I could get a motion.
I motion to approve the for the zoning permit for number 2024-1201. Do I need to include anything else to that?
Just include the fence type, since there were two presented.
Okay. Sorry. Was it dog-eared? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Mhm.
Dog-eared, yes. So we motion to approve the zoning permit 2024-1201 for the dog-eared fence.
Got a motion?
I second.
Secretary, recorder, Alex, whatever you want to be called. You got that information down?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, got a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion is approved. The dog-eared fence is good for the one property. Now we'll make a quick motion for the other property if we want to move on.
Draft motion on page 30 or stay with page 11. Whoever moves, be sure to include the fence type as with the other one.
Okay, this is it's not this, so it's not 1201.
1202.
1202.
Okay. I motion to approve the ZP number 2024-1202. What type of fence is that?
This dog.
Dog-eared,
Dog-eared.
same
Same
fence.
Same thing,
Okay.
yeah.
Dog-eared fence.
Mhm.
Anybody second?
I second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 3, Jefferson Street fence.
Yes. So this is a proposal for an addition of a 4.5 foot high picket fence surrounding the backyard with the front of fence that connects to the siding of the home, which would also include 3 gates and openings for that fence. On packet page 52 is the diagram of where the fence dimensions will be on the house, as well as on packet page 53 and 54, there's the fence type that will be built, as well as what adjacent properties have currently. Packet page 55 shows the plat for this home. I did research into the zoning ordinance for whether or not a fence can sit on the side of a property or if it has to be plumb with the rear or the side of the property. It can be on the sides of the property, stick out a little bit, which then caused visibility off of Jefferson Street, which then necessitated a need for board review. One of the residents that lives at this address is here to answer any questions the board may have. It's my recommendation for approval of this application as presented.
Okay, would the applicant like to make any comments?
I don't really have any comments really, unless you have questions.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Now, I raised this up to Thomas before. Typically, when I was on the board before, which was about 5 years ago, the fence line, of course, was restricted to the back edge of the house. It looks like this one's coming forward. What are we looking at? About 5 feet from the front face of the house, and 7 feet on the garage side. Is that what you're
That would probably be about right.
you're looking at? Now, you said you couldn't find any ordinances or any type of guideline rules on that kind of stuff, Thomas?
Let's see. The only requirements that involve any of this is if it goes past the lot line, it's a height requirement, but otherwise nothing about location of the fence itself. So with that in mind, I'm looking at section 58-19.7 landscape features. A fence or wall along the rear lot line on the side lot line of the rear of the required setback line may be erected to a height not exceeding 6 feet. And it's more of designating between use types, but I don't see anything about the fence line itself and the rear lot line.
Because I'm assuming that probably got changed in the guidelines since I've been on. So I just wanted to confirm. If anybody doesn't have any questions, do I have a motion?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the zoning permit 2025-0202 for extension of 4.5 feet fence around the property. Is that enough description?
As presented.
As
As presented.
presented
Okay.
on application. Okay, got a motion.
I second it.
Okay, second, last chance for discussion. Well, I have a question, I guess, one that I forgot. I didn't thoroughly inspect the application, so I didn't know Are you going to keep it natural? You just going to put a protective stain on it, or
Yes.
you're not going to paint it white or anything, right? Okay.
We have to let it dry. from what I understand,
Yeah,
for
weather,
several
you gotta let it
months.
weather, let all the salt seep out of it, yeah,
And then eventually we put something over there, but I don't think we're gonna,
okay.
that is not. in
So
there.
you'll just keep it a natural,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, we'll put it up for decision then, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Cool,
Thank you.
yep, enjoy it.
It's for the dog.
Well, I hope you know, when you finally look at your property line and everything, my mulch bed probably encroaches on your property a little bit, so we'll really find out how much grass I gotta put back. Okay, thanks. Next item. Get to the page here. I guess is a sign.
Yes.
ZP 2025-0105.
Yes. So we recently gave zoning approval for a new tenant in the Winterham building at 15111 Washington Street. This is for Starling Health Solutions, so it's chiropractic clinic, other medical practice clinic. It's an addition of just a 10 square foot wall sign. It's got an aluminum cabinet. It meets the height requirements for the zoning ordinance. The colors used are white background with green lettering. It'll be externally illuminated like the other tenant signage on the property. On packet page 67 shows the existing sign that is there right now, where packet page 68 shows what will be installed in place of that. I'd like to invite representative for the applicant now to come up and answer any questions the board may have.
Yeah, I couldn't tell, is the sign pretty much the same size, just different, or did you?
Keep it as close as the existing sign,
Mhm.
hope that we get approved.
Does anybody have any questions?
Let's see, a lot different.
It looks larger based on the image.
Yeah, that's why I kind of asked.
Yeah.
We didn't have a ladder to actually get up and measure it when we were there, so we sort of approximated, but they don't have the actual order in yet for the sign. So once we had approval, we would go and finalize that, so if we need it to be the exact same size, we can make that happen.
Is the new sign backlit?
I don't believe so, I
Okay.
think it's just gonna be.
Just a sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what those hanger lights are supposedly
Mhm.
for, is to give it a light. I guess, Thomas, shoot, I had a question for you. I lost it. Oh, yeah, I know in the past, we reviewed I think this complex at one time had a package, a sign package. Were we able to research that and determine?
From what I've looked so far, I've not found a sign package for the Winterham property.
Mhm.
Additionally, we did approve in the fall of last year, another tenant signage outside of any sign package that would have been there. So precedent right now is tenant by tenant meeting the zoning ordinance requirements.
Okay. Any questions? Do I have a motion?
I motion to approve the COA for ZP number 2025-0105 for the sign installation at 15111 Washington Street, Suite 121.
I second.
Okay, got a motion, got a second. Last chance for discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Okay, I guess the last thing on here, well, not last thing, but last COA. ZP 2024-1104.
Yes. So this is for 14920 Washington Street, also known as the Lane Motors property. In December, discussion was had over this COA application as for the feasibility of the demolition of the structure. I wanted to make some clarifying points and then go into detail about our site visit that we just had for this, looking into this property. Questions were raised about which structures were going to be demolished, what the nature of the structure looks like outside of the environmental study. It's just the main structure that will be demolished. The rest will be refurbished. The northeast accessory building, one of two accessory buildings on site, will receive a partial demolition. Main focus right now with this application is on that main structure. A lot of discussion was had about cost of demolition versus cost of refurbishment. Would there be something in place of this structure if demolished that would pay or honor the site? There was also discussion had about salvaging materials. The board was asking for more evidence or proof of statements from insurers, contractors, those kinds of things to show more evidence of the need or lack thereof for demolition of the property. This was also discussed on our site visit as well. I, as planner, was asked to look into the relic system for more information on the property. I wanted to give an update on that. Currently, the only information that Relic has on this property is the deed from 1974 when that transfer property was given over. There's additional information. Relic also states that the home was built in 1922. I think they got that off of Prince William County tax information as well, just for due diligence. Additionally, with the structure, any other uses, I'm still inquiring with another contact that Relic recommended to me to see if we can get a comprehensive history on anything else on the property. But as far as Lane Motors property itself, the deed is the only thing that came back to me for the Relic property. I want to pass out right now previous minutes from another demolition that took place across the street for the firehouse and bungalow. I think this is good context for the board for, one, if the board wishes to approve this application as I recommend, some conditions that could be used with that, and then some of the deliberation process that took place prior to voting on this application. So I'm going to go ahead and pass these out to the board right now. Additionally, just for informational purposes, do this one first, and I'll do the other one. For informational purposes, I'll show a brief sketch. This won't be voted on, but it's just a brief sketch of showing what could be built in place of the current property as it exists.
There we go.
Thank you. Just so you're using conditions on the motion.
Okay. Thank you.
To go briefly into my updated staff report as well, I'll start with, it's on packet page 78. Rehashing, structure was built in 1922, per what Relic has told us, what the county's said, and other information I've gathered. It is only listed as historic per the zoning ordinance currently. It's not listed as a historic resource in the comprehensive plan. Note that the comprehensive plan was last updated in 2013 to cover 2008, 2013. Additionally, it's adjacent to other historic structures and is located in the center of Haymarket. The architectural styles for all of the historic properties that are still there and those that have tried to match the historic properties with new builds, they differ somewhat based on the time period they were built. So there isn't necessarily a congruence in structure or scale for any of the other buildings around it. That being said, the demolition of the structure would remove a well-known historic building from the town of Haymarket. The historic district overlay is still currently the entirety of the town, but if it is reduced, it would be reduced to main frontage, which includes Washington Street in particular. So it would impact what historic homes or buildings you do see in Haymarket. That is something up for discussion with the board. In the site visit, we talked a lot about the foundation, what the walls were built of, those, how structurally sound it was. From the applicant's statement, the adaptive reuse of this structure would be much more costly than demolition and rebuilding of the current structure as is. Additionally, just going through my final staff recommendation, as shown in the minutes that I gave you for the demolition of the firehouse, there are a lot of conditions that were placed on approval of the application. As an example, I'll just read out the motion for the firehouse. Conditions of approval included photo documentation given to the zoning administrator at the time prior to approval of the COA for historic purposes, written documentation showing the history of the site, architectural salvage, which would include what we discussed on the site visit, so the stone on the walls, other items, those kinds of things. New construction would incorporate the architectural character of the original structure to include replication and or reuse of the front elevation. And I'll pass that out right now as an example of what their Water Creek Homes is proposing that would fit with this sort of condition that would be given for approval. Additionally, all of these would be allow for opportunity of adaptive reuse if needed, but it would still be an approved demolition application. And that's where I stand alongside of what I've given with the staff report is given what the applicant desires and what conditions have been placed for other historic properties that were demolished in the town, I would recommend approval of the demolition COA with conditions that would aid in preserving the historic integrity. So if a draft motion is made, it can be based off of something similar to the firehouse. At this time, I'd like to invite the applicants to come up again. And if the board has any other follow-up questions for them at this time, we can have that discussion.
Okay.
I have not. Does anybody have any questions while we wait? Any comments you would like to make or?
I think we had a great site visit and a lot of good conversation. And if you guys have any additional questions, just let me know.
Verify, I'm trying to remember like some of the conversations we had prior, previously, but with the package that you presented, is the color of the front exterior, it's going to be more like what's illustrated there, like a sandy, or I know because we had talked about the stone, trying to preserve that, and I just kind of was curious, like what are your thoughts?
So our thoughts right now from an architect design is we have commissioned the same brick masters that did the Hilton, and we've asked for a sample so we could be prepared with that as the alternative, as we've been instructed that the stone might not be salvageable.
Okay.
But we do appreciate the stone, and we were willing to maybe use it as a porch area like we discussed, or an accent wall inside.
Okay, so it would be a similar color as to
The Hilton,
The
because
Hilton.
it's across the street.
copy. Okay, all right.
Okay,
That's as an alternate though, correct?
That's what I understand. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the alternate.
Correct.
Yeah, that's our, that's what we, based on everyone that's come, that's most likely what will happen. But if we can, we're gonna try, but it's been said that it's gonna be a pretty tough save.
One thing to add on with that too, there will be a chance to discuss color schemes, those kind of things as well, once this application is brought to.
Right.
But I think it's good to start that discussion as well, in lieu of adding that as a condition about preserving the historic.
I tried to be careful, Thomas, not to go down that.
Just as a reassurance reminder.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to touch on the spirit of like at least what their thoughts were. Yeah, no problem. From my perspective, I'm not. I mean, like the the firehouse, like for the same reasons, some of the same reasons. The building was made to be utilitarian, not necessarily for its, aesthetic, you know, to be aesthetically pleasing. So I'm not really wed to necessarily, to the current, structure, as long as that we're staying within the spirit of Lane Motors. And I'll defer to you.
Okay. Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
I think the one thing you mentioned was going with the brickwork sounded like what everybody was thinking about, and to match it to the hotel, but the hotel's not bordering it on either side. So I'm wondering if it makes sense to tie it to the hotel, or if it makes sense to tie it in more to the structures on either side of it. It's
Yeah,
food for
well,
thought, you know?
Right. Truly, though, the purpose of this COA is strictly for demolition. It's not on
That's true.
what's going to be put together. This is just to try and give us a comfort factor of what their opinion is on what they want to move forward and try to present to the town later on. It's not even a criteria on the decision that we're going to be making here, and we
That's
can't
true.
use that as a criteria.
That's
The true criteria here is, do we deem this building historic? And that's the question. Do we have it on our local registry, or
Go ahead.
what do we have to determine if it's historic? And then if it's in a condition that it could be salvaged or not, and if not,
Mhm.
by opinion through the site survey that it's a shame, but would have to come down type of
Mhm.
deal.
So just to point to a point of reference in the zoning ordinance, within the historic district overlay ordinance, which is section 58-16, I then have criteria that I reviewed the application based off of. It starts on packet page 78. Let me just make the reference exact here. So it would be section 58:16.12, number 3, which is demolition approval criteria considerations. On packet page 78, I then go into detail about each criteria consideration. And that's where my recommendation comes in. And then it's up to the board to decide based on the information that they've been given. With that in mind, I wanted to also, there were some comments given by a board member that wasn't able to make it tonight via email. It was to all of us. I just wanted to read some of it. Not verbatim into record, but more just discuss it as well. A lot of there were concerns listed by this board member, mostly regarding, can this building be addressed or can it be rehabilitated as is? In his view, yes, it can be, as well as he hasn't seen a cost estimate about rehabilitation versus demolition. To state on record too, with that being said, since we don't own the property, I'm not sure it's in the town's best interest to provide a justification whether or not rehabilitation or demolition is in our interest. I think that's on the applicant. And then it's about the criteria that I've given or that we've been given in the zoning ordinance that we can make that decision off of. So with that in mind, I stated some of the conditions as I was introducing the staff report, but I'll go through it again. How the demolition or removal of historic resource from the property which is located will impact the historic integrity of the site. So currently, in terms of what's registered, the comprehensive plan, which has a list of historic or contributing structures, it does not list this property as a historic or contributing resource. The timestamp for the comprehensive plan is 2008, though. So it's been a decade or so since then, approaching 2 decades. It is the zoning ordinance definition for a historic structure is anything built prior to 1950. So because this is a 1922 build, it is technically historic per the zoning ordinance requirements in the historic district overlay. So that's where my consideration comes in, where maybe on some of the other documents, it's not necessarily listed as historic, but per zoning ordinance definition, it is. And residents in the town do have opinions on this. It is within the center of town, so it would affect the scale or what we see as historic within Haymarket if it's demolished. With that being said, that's where my condition that was shown in the firehouse minutes, the condition for having some sort of incorporation of the architectural character of the original structure. If there's a condition like that in the approval, I think that will help with preserving some sort of historic integrity on site.
Okay. My opinion, from the inspection, this building is salvageable, okay? But that's only one of the criteria that we got to evaluate here. We got to look at the historic value towards the town. It wasn't on the 2008 comp plan that showed it as historic. The only historic presentation and relic is pretty much just the tax records on it. So I mean, there's no type of significant traceability of this being historic, so to speak. The only reason it is historic is because it's older than 1950s. Even though there is a good representation of what it did through town, it's still not meeting what I would consider historic with the records. No one of importance, sorry, whoever lived in it or used it in the past, but no one of significance like a major political figure of the town that was there or anything like that. So even though I feel it's salvageable, I feel it doesn't meet the historic requirement that I feel is necessary for the owners to have to go above and beyond to reconcile. I do like what their impressions are. I love the way they, as a business, want to invest in the town. I do like you keeping some type of curved roofing on it to give it homage as well. The front picture, I was like, I didn't like, but the option picture in there was actually, I think, appropriate. And I'm comfortable moving towards that, even though I do recognize that once this building is down, you're not committed to having to put that together. It's all in a matter of what you want to present in your site plan. And that's what we got to recognize too, is once this is down, it's down. So, but that's my opinion and my logic on trying to come up with a decision on this.
I think I concur with you. I mean, I've kind of feel the same way. I do appreciate your efforts coming into this to adhere to the spirit of the town and trying to preserve a lot of the integrity of the structure. So yeah, I guess this would be more of a gentleman's gentle ladies agreement that you're gonna kind of follow through with that. That being said, like I said, I kind of agree with you on that it's a great opportunity, to keep this structure. We had a lot of people, like you said before, kind of interested in it, and it didn't pan out. So having somebody that's going to actually do something with it and keep it, within the spirit of Haymarket is appreciated. So I mean, I agree with you. That's all I have to say.
David,
I mean,
I'll put you in the hot seat since you're new to
first meeting, great, thank you.
ARB. So you can kind of see my thought processes on it. I might have a little bit more land planning experience being on the ARB for as long as I did way back when, but your opinions?
My concern is once it's gone, it's gone. And those are great images, but an agreement with you is there's no commitment to that yet. We still have to go down that path. But after touring the building, I think, like you said, it is salvageable, but there's not the historical significance in there yet. And, if you all are willing to work with the town, I agree with that. So.
Any further comments?
No, I concur with David in that, I mean, once it's down, it's down. However, we're in hopes that, the applicant would work with the town and, it's refreshing to see, something new come in its place to give it life, but still pay homage to what was there. So I'm fine.
Okay. I think we're in kind of consensus on that. Before we go for a vote, though, I would like to figure out what kind of conditional elements we can put on this. I would like to do some type of archiving. This will be a burden on the town, not for you to have to present or put together, but the photography, right? is
Usually it's the applicant that provides it to
Applicant.
the zoning administrator and they give approval after that
Okay.
as part of administrative approval.
Yeah, but of course, I do like to archive any type of, because even though we may not deem this as a historic asset to the town, it is still a historic influence on the town, right? So I would like to get some type of archiving on pictures and whatever.
Definitely. What I will say to this, I have a draft motion on packet page 80 to approve this COA with conditions, demolition of the garage structure. In addition to that, I think there are good conditions presented in the minutes from the firehouse building. With that in mind too, you have photo documentation, written documentation, which is more of a description of the property, not necessarily a history, which I think is being covered by Relic. Architectural salvage, and I think to the board's biggest concern, the new construction. If you see on item 4 there, new construction shall incorporate the architectural character of the original structure to include replication and or reuse of the front elevation. The language doesn't have to be verbatim of that, but I think that is a very good template to use. The final condition also continues on the back of this page as well. But this sort of template, I think, is comprehensive enough to cover the wishes to preserve any sort of historic integrity of the site, but also to understand and respect the board's decision.
Yeah, it seems to cover all the points that we've talked about. Do I need to read the whole? Okay,
Yes.
all right. Is there anything else you feel like need to be added, sir?
When it comes to, I guess, architectural elements to be salvaged, to what extent? I mean, I'd love to keep some of that stone, but looking at how that stone was pressed into concrete, not knowing how soft that stone is, that's not salvageable. So, you know,
I just wanted to say a couple more things. So speaking to that point, our idea was to save the pieces that we could and use it as like a patio or do an accent wall or we could even use it for some type of flooring in a bathroom. I don't know if you saw, we already did an architectural sketch for maybe a historical frame. But one thing I did want to mention is as a company, we've already presented to the architect board on a design and it was very modern and the town didn't like it. And we were very accommodating going back to our architects and working with the town on that project. You can look up that project when you have time. Magnolia Crossing is what that project was called. So we do have a history of working closely with the town and really trying to adhere to the integrity. And if you look at our website, our slogan is built with integrity. So if that's something you guys are really concerned about, I just wanted to rest assured that we love the building and we will do our best.
yeah, well, I like your enthusiasm on trying to reuse that stone, but I think it's inevitable. It's just going to chip away. It's going to be more work to try and salvage it but you know, if you want to try, that'd be good. I don't know what else would be salvaged, like maybe a piece of the tin roof, but I don't even know if we have storage to salvage that for the museum to present as a piece of our history. So, you know, I would leave the salvaging element up as seen appropriate by the town planner and let you two work it out.
Okay, so we okay with a motioning for approval with conditions?
Yes. And then just list out the conditions as you've written and as is presented.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, got it. Yep. I motion to approve the COA for ZP number 2024-1104 for the demolition of the garage structure at 14920 Washington Street with conditions, the conditions being similar to the demolition permit for the firehouse building, with, number one, photo documentation. Prior to issuance of town zoning permit for demolition of the structure, the applicant will provide the town complete photographic documentation of the exterior and interior of the structure. Photo documentation to include all 4 elevations of the exterior as applicable, to the structure, including view from Washington Street that demonstrate the structure's relationship to adjacent structures and the streetscape. Photo documentation should also include architectural details of the structure building eaves, columns, entry doors, windows, etc. Interior photos should note room layout and similar architectural details. Photographic documentation to be submitted to the town in hard copy and digital formats. Number 2, written documentation. Prior to issuance of a town zoning permit for demolition of the structure, the applicant will provide to the town complete written description of the exterior and the interior structure, written documentation to include interior and exterior dimensions of the structure, orientation of the building on the property through a plat or similar description, and a description of the architectural style, period, and method of construction of the structure. Written descriptions to be submitted to the town in hard copy and digital formats. Architectural salvage, prior to conjunction with a demolition of the structure, the applicant has reasonably practicable will make available to the public without charge architectural components of the structure, including but not limited to windows, doors, decorative, and structural elements. Prior to issuing a town zoning permit for demolition of structure, the applicant will provide to the town a written description of how and when this condition 3 will be fulfilled, including the means of public notice. Such notice is also to be shared on the town's website and social media platforms as appropriate. And you would also work with salvaging with the town planner as appropriate. Number 4, new construction. New construction shall incorporate the architectural character of the original structure to include replication and/or reuse of the front elevation, Washington Street, and use of the exterior architectural details, materials documented in conditions 1 and 2. I go forward with findings of approval. Okay, findings of approvals. Number 1, conditional approval of the demolition requires photographic and written documentation of the architectural elements of the structure and its context relative to the town's streetscape and adjacent properties for future study and architectural reference. Number 2, conditional approval of the demolition allows for the opportunity for adaptive reuse of the architectural components of the structure. Number 3, demolition of the structure has the potential to improve and/or continue the visibility of adjacent occupied historic structures, i.e. the old Banky Building, Red House, and the Red House Tavern. If I get a second.
I second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Thank you for that big-winded motion.
Yeah.
Last chance for discussion. I just want to thank you for investing in this town. Okay, so on that, since it is a demo, I'd prefer a roll call vote on this.
Aye.
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 Thank you very
Mhm.
much.
Thank
You
you.
bet.
You.
Okay, next agenda item, we got the ARB guidelines.
Yes. Mr. Mason, I'll give you a break. I have some catching up with the board to do on this, so. I've been tasked with revamping the ARB guidelines. The last time they were updated, it was with, staff was very small at the time. This is more for new ARB members as well as those that have been there previously, but the guidelines as updated were done via volunteer and then passed by the town council at that time. Because the guidelines are now 25 years old, they're in significant need of updates. I've met with the board in the past and provided some revisions for their consideration. This includes just a general narrative of the scope of the ARB, the scope of their review and approval. It references the zoning ordinance as well. Currently, the zoning ordinance has a historic district overlay as the entire town boundaries. There's discussion on how to potentially reduce that, as well as going through proper channels to have that zoning text amendment be put into place. The goal with these guidelines updates for now are to create something neutral enough to where no matter what the historic overlay is, if it's main thoroughfares such as Washington Street, Jefferson Street, Fayette Street, or if it's still the entire town boundaries, that that will be accounted for and modernized and updated and still applicable. Additionally, there's been updates that I'm working on involving administrative approval, which is just me reviewing an application versus what can be taken to the board. In a lot of cases, probably hopefully fence and deck applications will then just be brought to me, kind of thing. Easier on us and also on the applicants. As an example, what I will do for now is I'm going to send those guidelines separate to each board member so we can have one-on-one discussions about it if needed. The bulk of our discussion will take place in the March ARB meeting. I wanted to provide for the new board members a couple of maps or draft maps of what our historic buildings inventory looks like, if we're missing any, that kind of thing. The most updated draft map I have right now is on packet page 120, the final page. The inventory that is found in the comprehensive plan, as well as what will be cross-referenced to in the Architectural Review Board guidelines. It's just an inventory and a list of historic properties. As you can tell, as an example of what was just approved, Lane Motors property, because it was older than 1950 in terms of its construction date, it would be listed as a historic structure per the zoning ordinance. So I've taken what's been a contributing structure from the comprehensive plan, and then also what is per zoning ordinance definition historic, and labeled it in this map. Additionally, if there's anything on a national or state register of historic places, that is labeled as well. So as far as that's the main update for the guidelines, like I said, I'll send it out to the board members individually. It can be quite an in-depth discussion, and then if you have other comments, you'll have time to think about it as well. Not to single Mr. Capicella out. If you have any other questions for the guidelines right now for me that I can answer, I'm happy to answer them now. If the board has any other questions or comments.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
For now.
Now, this is a finalized document that we're going to review and vote on, or are we looking at updating this even further?
It turns into an update of update the guidelines. ARB sees them as good, recommends them for approval by town council, and then the town council will then review and approve them.
Okay, so there's no need for us to request money for a consultant or anything to add to this
For the scope of this particular project, no.
Okay. Okay, and I guess when this gets kicked up to town council, they will give it to legal to review?
Yes.
Okay,
So all procedures and channels that are necessary for approval of that via council will be
and
exercised.
I'm assuming public hearing and everything else will happen at the town council level and not at
Yes.
our level? Okay,
So right now, we're just doing the groundwork for once that public hearing takes place. Additionally, like I said, a lot of this is based off of what's currently in the historic district overlay. There's discussion on updates of that. If necessary language needs to be brought to the planning commission, it will be brought, and then the board will be notified of that. So other than that, those are the main update I have for guidelines.
okay, I have no further questions. Anybody have any questions? Okay. So I guess next steps, do we got to direct you anywhere, or are we good? We
Just a
need to
discussion
review.
item, so no directive needed.
Okay. Okay, then I'm good with that. So we can move on, old business, since I'm new here. Do we have any old business?
Couple of items. It was December meeting, so there were a couple fence applications that now are approved, which were on the December schedule. The elevations that were referenced during the Lane Motors property review it was listed in site plan review, probably at the council level for the admin report as Blight Drive Townhomes, 6700 Blight Drive. The official name for that development is Magnolia Crossing. So the elevations were approved for that, and then the site plan has subsequently been approved and signed. Right now, they're finishing up with deed plat submission and Prince William County permits. So I'll keep the board and council updated on when grading will take place and when construction starts for that site.
Okay, so
Um,
the site plans were agreed upon then, because I know there were a few conflicts there.
mhm.
Okay,
And then additionally, there were an application for monument signage for the Kidd Academy site that was approved. It's going through the county right now. Just to double check for November as well. Apart from that, no other old business on my end, so.
okay. Any comments to make on? Okay, we'll move on to a new business then. Any new business coming up?
Not necessarily new business, but an update on the town park structure. So the COA for demolition was issued by the ARB. Currently, we're still processing our demolition permit application with the building department. We just need tickets from Columbia Gas now that the line has been shut off for that, and Dominion Energy now that the power's been shut off from the site. Once we get those demolition letters, that will be included in our application to the building department, and demolition should happen within the next month.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yes,
Why is there heavy equipment sitting up front?
that is for another project. So this is for the sidewalk construction. The heavy equipment, if it's near the building, that's for the park house demolition.
Demolition.
The tickets were, the lines were cut in December, the gas lines and any others had been abandoned on the adjacent parcel. And so the equipment was sitting there, and then it came to our attention that we still needed the letters for the ticket. So I'm still pending processes with that. I've been trying to follow up daily with both Dominion and Columbia Gas to make sure that goes through. But there was another outstanding one for Prince William County Water. We needed to figure out where we capped our sewer line because it's a temporary demolition and a pavilion will be installed in place of the structure. It's listed as temporary instead of permanent, so we could cap inside. So no disturbance of the street or the sidewalk further than the sidewalk construction project. So the equipment's there, ready for the demolition. We just got to get the final approval from the building department. So with that in mind, though, talking about the sidewalk construction as well, just new business on that. The lights for the sidewalk should be installed soon. We're going to give them the green light tomorrow for that. There were some timing issues with the demolition of the park house, along with mill and overlay for the street and the crosswalk that will be there to connect the sidewalks across Washington Street. So apart from that, that's my main new business.
How about all the wood that was chopped down from the tree we had to lay down? Are you going to cure that and be attending the fires at the next Christmas?
Possibly, unless our maintenance
celebration.
coordinator, if he's generous, then I'll have some for that, but otherwise, I'm not sure. So
Since you are our fire tender, I thought
guess so.
you would be keeping control of all that wood for that adventure, right?
well, part of it's investing for the future, right? So I think that'll definitely be put into consideration. So, but otherwise, other than that, no new business from me.
Okay. Any questions or any comments? Okay. Planning Commission updates.
I got really put on the spot here.
I can cover for you on this one if
Thank
you'd
you,
like.
Thomas.
Yes. Just one moment.
Since David is our new liaison for the Planning Commission as
Yeah.
well, right? So,
Yeah, I've only had one planning commission meeting and I was learning.
It was quite the application as well to learn from as well. Special use permit, 2nd of 2024. It was for current use chart allows for religious assembly as defined within public assembly, only in by right in B1, B2, or excuse me, in transition commercial. It's then approved via special use permit in the B1, B2 zone. QBE building is B1 land use. There was an applicant that wished to have a religious assembly space in one of the tenant spaces at QBE. They're currently applying for the special use permit for that. It's for the Haymarket Islamic Center. That's the name of the business of sorts. There was a lot of discussion about occupancy, about parking on site as well. A thorough discussion with the commission on that. Currently, the commission recommended approval of the application with conditions, and there's a public hearing that will be held for that application for this March town council meeting. So that's my main planning commission update.
okay. Any questions? Okay. Move on to the next one. Town council update. Well, I guess I'm under the gun on this one. Really, it was kind of hinted to here, right? Demolition of the house up there. You should see a fencing that went up there and the major equipment for it. Thomas even gave you an update on the crosswalk and the milling of the street coming in. Right now, that's the only things really coming to mind for the town council meeting. We did discuss a little bit the special use permit for QBE and the religious organization.
Was there discussion, was it the December or January meeting that was discussion for the first special use permit for the drive-through
January.
expansion?
Oh, it's January.
January?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's about it. Does anybody have anything they want to ask me? Okay. Next agenda item. Who's jumping on it? Motion, please. No one likes to be, you don't want to adjourn,
I
huh?
motion to adjourn.
Get
I
music.
second that motion.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Meeting closed. Thanks for sticking it out the whole meeting.